Henry Winkler is actor, comedian, author, producer, director, and my guest today to speak about something that affects so many family caregivers, macular degeneration, specifically geographic atrophy, or GA, which is a leading cause of blindness for over 1 million Americans. Henry, it's a pleasure to have you here talking about something so very important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
I understand you had a loved one living with GA, which brought the issue to your attention. Can you tell us about that experience?
Absolutely. So I partnered up with Apellis, this biotech, wonderful company who spends a lot of focus on eye care innovation. And they came to me with this idea of macular degeneration, which can become GA or geographic atrophy. And I knew what they were talking about because when I married Stacy, I got 2 gifts. I got my stepson, Jed, came into my life when he was 4. And I got Ed and Belvy, my in-laws. And Ed was this tall, wonderful, tweedy, mustached dentist. Who loves a dentist? I loved a dentist. He was just great and became my dentist and was one of the best dentists I ever had. And then all of a sudden things changed in his eyesight. This macular degeneration started to come into his life, and he had to give up his practice sooner than he wanted. He couldn't drive, couldn't see the faces of his grandchildren. He was on an elevator. My brother-in-law told me he was on an elevator. It was like the scent of a woman. All of a sudden, he was standing there and he whispered to his son, Scott, he said, "I think ladies just stepped onto the elevator. I smell the perfume." And I watched his gregarious, filled with pride about what he did and how good he was at it. I watched all of that kind of just drip away.
What are some of the common symptoms we need to look at that you guys noticed with your father-in-law of GA? When we see these, we're going, okay, there's an issue.
All right. So his eyesight started to dwindle. He couldn't read a letter. So he got a contraption where he magnified the letter and it was projected onto a screen attached to the machine. But eventually that didn't work either. You know, for GA, which is a possibility that macular degeneration becomes geographic atrophy, wavy lines where there should be straight, the missing spots in what you're looking at. We have a kitchen in our house, and we would have my in-laws over for dinner all the time. My mother-in-law was an unbelievable cook. So there are 2 steps leading down from the kitchen to a playroom. All the toys are there for the dogs and for our grandchildren. We now have 6. And I watched him very gingerly discover the floor until he got to the edge of the stairs, at which time, without making a big deal about it, I grabbed his arm. I said, "Hey, let's go to dinner together," helped him down the 2 steps, got him into his chair, and so you see the entire life force of this person change. That's why I say, go to see your eye doctor as soon as possible.
Yeah, the sooner the better. If you recognize recognize these symptoms, whatever they can do, they'll have the best medicines, the best solutions. But if you wait, nothing gets better.
You know, it's irreversible. And so you have got to you've got to check as early as possible and not be embarrassed. Not be embarrassed that you're imperfect, that something about you is changing. Don't put it off. Don't be lazy. Don't say, you know what, I'll get it next week. And then you put it off. Oh, well, it's everything is okay so far. Get it checked.
One of the you talk about Ed, and obviously he's a wonderful medical professional and
Yes.
loving and caring, and the challenge I find that happens is people's loss of independence, or
Yes.
loss of self.
Yes.
How did that affect Ed?
Well, first of all, let me just say that perfectly put. It affected him. He couldn't drive anymore. He even I listened to him ask his son Scott, "Do you still have a beard?" He could no longer see what was so intimate and so much a part of his family life. His career. He loved the politics of dentistry. He was a representative at the conferences that they would hold in St. Louis or in New Orleans or whatever. And he would go and have the best time and make lifelong friends. And all of that slowly left his life.
The politics of dentistry. I think that's going to be my next book. Thank you for the
Yeah.
Thank you for the title. So it's challenging, and it is a huge sense of loss, and it's something we don't want to face. What advice do you have for family caregivers who are noticing their loved ones showing signs of GA or macular degeneration, AMD, and how to get them, to process this change in their life?
Okay, great questions. One, somebody 60 or older? Go immediately to gawon'twait.com. gawon'twait.com. Geographic atrophy won't wait.com. There is so much resource. There are so many wonderful bits of information on where, on who, on what at that website. 2, talk. Get them to talk. Get them to open up. Get them to realize that they're not going to lose any height or weight. They're not going to lose any love because something is happening to them. A change is going on physically in their bodies, their head, their eyes. I think those two things, you get them to talk and you get them to find the resource at the website. And then I make the joke, don't drive, pick up your car and run to your eye doctor.
So when you and your family first noticed this happening with Ed, what were your immediate thoughts? How did he interact with you? How were you able to get through it?
At that time, we did not know as much as we do now about macular degeneration or the possibility of macular degeneration becoming GA. All you can do is help the person deal with the embarrassment, the fear, the change that happens in their entire life, and just keep on boosting their morale, boosting their self-image, that you're still the great person. I love you for who you are, and I understand this is a drag, but it doesn't change my opinion of your wonderfulness.
Understanding, connection, communication. Don't be afraid of the changes that are coming with this, and help them process this new part of their life.
Get the information and go to see your eye doctor.
I think that's wonderful. Henry, what would be the one most important piece of advice you'd like to share with family caregivers?
That, let me just say, people who are being helped by you, people who are watching you help, know how difficult the job is, and really appreciate without you, the quality of that person's life would be even less. Thank God for you. That's what, if I had to give one message, I think that would be that to a caregiver. Thank goodness for you.
This changes, but nothing about how I feel about you changes.
Right.
And nothing about how important you are to us changes.
Yes.
And you're still who you are.
Exactly. And all of that is true. You just made it. I used a lot of words and you made it very clear.
Well, you get paid by the word. So, come on. You get paid by the word.
If only. Oh, I got a lot of words here. No. But you made it very concise, and that is completely true. I would not change 1 minute of what you said.
I appreciate that. And how did Ed react? If I could ask, when this happened to him, what was his emotional process?
Very he knew that people loved him. He knew that he was helpful. He did so many pro bono so much pro bono work for people who could not afford it. It just was his way of life. He was filled with doing wonderfulness. And then that wonderfulness was taken away because of macular degeneration, which can become GA. And you just watched him. It was almost as if he got shorter.
Yeah. Yeah, I recognize that in many caregiving situations, and having the love and the buoyancy of a family who's explaining to him that he hasn't changed and they're there to pick up the slack is so important, I think.
But to actually do that, because you can say that to somebody, but
Yeah.
if they're feeling the change or lack or something is going on in their physical medical self, it's hard. You're saying that, but you don't know. I'm less than, and you're not.
Yeah. No,
Just get your eyes checked.
Get your eyes checked.
Get your eyes checked right here.
Right here, right here. Go get your eyes checked.
Step right up.
Coney Island. I thank you for this.
Frankfurter and your eyes.
Yeah. I thank you for this. I'm thrilled that you're doing this. I think I'm going to add advocate to the list of proclamations that you are, other than one of the few people in the world you can actually say, this person needs no introduction. So
thank you.